we're ready to go. Virgil's going to play a moderator of sorts. But I wanna start just by asking you, Sam. The name of our show is Bad Faith, and so I want to get your sense of where the bad faith breakdown came in the midst of this entire force the vote debate. Because I will say, I first heard of it from you on your show. The very first time I heard of the idea was from you, and you were, giving plaudits at the time. And I thought, well, if Sam Seder likes this thing, and it's a Jimmy Dore idea, that it must be something I should look into more closely. So, what happened?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, that's sort of how I presented it when we talked about it. And if I remember correctly, what I felt was at the time, and I remember the original video that Jimmy did about it, where he was talking like, there was a spirit of, of camaraderie, I guess, on some level that he was appealing to, if I remember correctly. And at the time I said, this sounds like a good idea to leverage the vote for something. Mm-hmm. And I think if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this, but maybe I probably should have checked that video. But I'm pretty sure I said at the time, I'm not sure that Medicare for All vote is the best idea. You might want something like committees or something like that. But the idea of leveraging the vote, I thought, was a good one. And I think at the time, I may have said on the video or not, my feeling was like, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to ask around a little bit if this is, people think this is a good idea, and if they're looking for something else. And after that, if I'm pretty sure I have the sequence correct, I did ask a couple of people I know who are sort of not necessarily directly involved in that, but sort of peripherally involved and might have known about that. And I heard they were going for other stuff. I think ultimately that turned out to be the PAYGO thing. And I don't think after that I said anything about it, because I still felt like it's not a bad idea to, inject this notion of leveraging the vote. And I think and then I think it wasn't until I saw Jimmy turn it into, the next thing I saw about it was Jimmy doing a video saying that AOC was the thing that was the person that was standing between us and Medicare for All. She was a sellout. She was a fraud. And I realized, like, oh.
Okay, so Sam, just to clarify, I want to clarify. You said you talked to some people who were peripherally related, who said that they didn't think that force the vote was a good idea.
Well, no, it wasn't that they didn't think that force the vote was a good idea. It was more like I was checking around to see if there's other things being leveraged. And there was, and the answer I got was yes. And and I think I had conversations with people who were like, what happens after let's presume for a moment that, and one of the things, I had trouble with subsequent to it was just sort of like, what are the mechanics of this? Like, exactly, like, what is what follows from the force the vote? And at that point I said, okay, not a great idea, but I'm not going to, I'm a very much a, let 1,000 flowers bloom type of guy.
Are you able to tell us any more about who it was you were talking to?
No, but it's not earth shattering. It's, it's very peripheral people. And, we all have our sources. Some are on the record, some are off. And
Sam's been a with Bernie Sanders.
But I can tell you this, I will say this, just for the sake of your audience, it was not AOC, and it was not anyone at MSNBC. So there's the two sort of like,
well, because Sam, there are. I don't know whether to credit this or not. I read some of the comments on Facebook, and some people were saying that on Twitter rather that there was some. They had sources that suggested that there were some folks in Congress or on their staff that wanted to kill the force the vote movement, and I just wasn't sure if it was someone affiliated with the congressperson or not.
No.
Okay, so the I think, is that I'm glad you brought that up. Because I think the point at which it became kind of bad faith from my perspective was largely around folks who are making this argument that we don't know what step 2 is, right? And to me, it's obvious. You withhold a vote in exchange for any number of concessions, which it's always been, my argument has always been, it's a floor vote on Medicare for all, because I think that's what draws the greatest amount of spectacle, and it's an issue that is number one in the minds of Americans right now, as 15 million people have just lost their employer-based health care in the middle of this crisis. We all know how exigent the issue is. But in addition to that, as soon as David Sirota put out his excellent article about what all the other options could be, including getting rid of Richie Neal, including getting rid of PAYGO in its entirety, I said yes, and I included all of those asks and linked to Sirota's article in the article that I wrote very early in all of this, I think in mid-December. And so it was always about a lot of asks, including the ones that you just said were going to be the priority instead of Medicare for all. So if the issue is step 2, then that would be the same if you're asking for these narrow PAYGO exemptions that they got, and it would be the same if we were asking for more, right? So it seems